Before we get started here, I want to remind everyone to please hit that like button and share this video on whatever social media you have. Since this is a restricted channel, you're the only chance we have to overcome YouTube's anti-2A bias and discrimination. Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Shooting the Shit with Yankee. As always, I'm Yankee, so let's start shooting. Today's topic kind of stems from the video I did today or yesterday by the time you see this when I repost it, where I talked about how the media is now saying that Charlie Kirk was assassinated by a high-powered sniper rifle, which was basically like a deer gun with a scope on it. So they're trying to twist the narrative into just long guns with scopes on them are exceptionally dangerous because you can use them to make these impossible shots from long distances, even though it wasn't even close to an impossible shot. It was a relatively easy shot to anybody with a scoped rifle. Yeah, they try to make the narrative now that these guns, these extremely dangerous guns, lend themselves to this type of crime. And if you remember, that's the exact same argument that Pam Bondi used the other day to try to pursue the ability of the state to regulate suppressors because they can be so easily used in crimes. They're a special circumstance. You know, we're pro-gun and pro-2A except for when there's special circumstances. So what I want to know here today, or basically what I want to express and see if anybody agrees with me, it really worries me when they do things like this, when they start these narratives. Because I could easily see Pam Bondi and Donald Trump both saying we need to do something about these high-powered sniper rifles. You know, these crazy Antifa people are taking shots from distance and they get away because they're so far away when they do it. And they wouldn't be able to do it without these special rifles, which is basically any rifle with a scope can do it. Wouldn't surprise me one bit if they started using the same argument they use against suppressors and fully automatic rifles and SBRs and everything else to just go after rifles with scopes. Because if their whole mindset is if it can be used by criminals easily, if it can facilitate a crime, which suppressors are almost never used in crimes, and neither are rifles, but more so than suppressors. And he didn't have a suppressor on this rifle. So it wouldn't surprise me at least a little bit if they start saying we need to get these things off the street. And unfortunately, right now, so much of the right has bowed down to Trump and anything he says that everybody to the left is going to say, yeah, you're right. We should get rid of these rifles. And then you'll have the Trump true believers, the ones with the TDS, the Trump deity syndrome that think he's God's gift to people, will also just either be quiet or support the idea. You see how many now ignore the fact that he ever took bump stocks away. They pretend that didn't happen. I even saw on a forum the other day how Obama took away our bump stocks. Well, that's revisionist history. That people still to this day deny, say, oh, it was a deep fake when he said take away their their due process now and then take away their guns also. Basically take the guns now and give them due process later. They're already saying that's fake. Most of his true believers, when it went out on live media coverage across the world, there's 1,000 different sources for it, plus transcripts that back it up. So it wouldn't surprise me a bit if they did go after things like this, rifles with scopes on it. And it also wouldn't surprise me if enough of the people on the right stick their fucking fannies in the air and ask Trump to fuck them harder. So I could see it actually working. Now, there would be small groups of people that would rebel, but do those people have any power anymore? You know, do you think they're going to try to appease hunters that vote Republican when they don't try to appease cattle ranchers that vote Republican? Or people who live in red states and get SNAP benefits and vote Republican, which is most of them? If they're not trying to appease them anymore because they don't really have any power and voting doesn't really matter anymore, why would they try to keep hunters happy? They're an even smaller demographic. So I would not be the least bit surprised if they used this narrative, this bullshit to go after sniper rifles, which would basically end up being any long gun that you can put a scope on. Wouldn't surprise me a bit. And like I said, even worse, it won't surprise me when too many people on the right stand down and ignore it because Trump said it. With that being said, let's go see if people agree with me, disagree with me. Remember, you can weigh in right up till the end of the chat here until I say that's it for us today. Let's see what everybody else has got to say over here. And before I do, let me remind everyone, if you want to support this channel, please hit the like button. If you're watching this video, please hit the like button. It's very, very important. Can't stress it enough. And if you want to support this channel in any other way, go over to my website, tympistolproject.com. You can buy merch over there, like the Prepared Bear shirt. You can become a Patreon member, a Subscribe Star member. You can nominate yourself for TYMP. You can nominate someone else for Handguns for Heroes. So go on over my website. You can also get entered into the Henry Axe drawing over there and all kinds of other stuff. So go on over. There should be another drawing over there by tomorrow for people who join Patreon over the next 2 days. So keep your eyes open for that. With that being said, let's go read comments from everybody else here. Sean Bain chimed in, says, I don't think so, unless his handlers are stupid. But I mean, if they can get rifles out of the hands of people, and their billionaire donors don't want people to have rifles, and they can sell it, like I just said, how many people on the right do you think will lay down simply because it's Trump's will? That's what worries me. Practical Bacon said, nothing anti-2A surprises me from any politician. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me either, but it especially doesn't surprise me with Trump because he knows he can get away with it. A big portion of his base, he knows that's something that the left will agree with him on default. So he'll have at least 50% of the people saying, yeah, we should do that. And then if he can just convince 5% of his base, which doesn't seem to be a problem for him so far, he could have a winning proposal that satisfied all their billionaire donors. Edgar Cortez says, no, it will be the kiss of death for the Republican Party at the next election if he tries to go after rifles. Would it? I mean, do you not think the saying fuck you to the farmers is going to be the kiss of death, or fuck you to the cattle ranchers, or fuck you to every poor person in every red state? I think they don't care about what the voters think anymore. I don't even know if they plan on having another election. I wouldn't be surprised if they all got together and said, we'll just not have another election. It's too much social turmoil right now. We don't want to go through that. So I'm not as optimistic. Oliver B said hunters would revolt. How many people hunt? Not many. Have you looked at the state of hunting licenses in most states now and how low they are? Not a lot of hunters left. So how many people would they be pissing off? More people than they piss off when they take away Medicaid and Medicare from poor people in red states? I don't think so. So if they aren't worried about that, why would they worry about the other? John M. Mandrick chimed in and says he doesn't care enough about 2A to even notice unless it's a political advantage for him or Pam goes down on him. Well, I think that might already be the case, and then that is gross and uncalled for. But I don't see Pam Bondi saying no to anything from Trump. She knows why she's where she's at, and she knows there's no other way she'd gotten there other than she fit the type that they want. You know, the blonde, used to be pretty kind of thing. So, yeah, I know. I think she knows why she's where she's at. Iowa Joe says he'll start with an anti-trans gun ban to ease in. Well, yeah, they already suggested that. And how many people on the right went, yeah, let's do that, simply because they said it. And that would be one of the most egregious violations of the Second Amendment ever done by a politician. Even worse than an assault weapons ban, etc., because this was taking away basically all gun rights from a specific group of people. Not taking away certain guns or certain items, just banning a whole group of people from having Second Amendment rights. And yet so many were okay with it. It's really saddening. Pigar says the same media that Trump called the enemy of the people, I doubt Trump cares about firearms at all. Well, he doesn't. Except his billionaire donors and his billionaire buddies do. They don't want the 99% armed. So they very much care about that stuff, especially if they're afraid they're the ones that might get sniped. You know, they think you think they don't think about that? Of course they do. You think Steve Bannon doesn't think about that? Of course he does. So I wouldn't be too sure. Now, we got one more person weighing in here, and it's Mr. Furley. And Mr. Furley said, I don't think he's going after bolt action rifles. Well, I think that'd be the first ones they went after. Because they'd be like, what's everybody need a bolt action rifle for? Who hunts? You know, who hunts anymore? And get a semi-automatic rifle or use a shotgun. Just hunt with a shotgun. We've heard that argument before. So I think it'd be one of the first things to go. Actually, I think they would first go after, like, you know, AR-15s and stuff, because they would be like, well, look, you put these are ready made for scopes. And everyone's talking about how much more accurate they are than AKs and stuff like that. They're ready made for sniping people. And they look kind of like the rifles that the guys who actually are snipers use. So that'd probably be the first things they went after. But I don't think bolt actions would be exempt. I think any long gun that you could put a scope on, they would try to say you can't have it if it's got a threaded barrel, or if it has a way to mount a scope, or any of this stuff, you can't have it. Wouldn't surprise me at all. But that's how I feel, and seems like most people disagree with me. We'll see, and I hope they're right and I'm wrong. You know, this is not one of those cases where I hope I'm right. This is where I hope I'm wrong. But what do you think out there in YouTube land? Could you see something like this happening? And do you see some people on the right just laying the fuck down and letting it happen because it's Donald Trump? Let me know in the comment section. And if you want to weigh in on one of these topics in person, come to our live chats. We do them every day at 6 p.m. We'd love to have you. Everybody's welcome. So come on in. And for those of you that did show up today and already weighed in, thank you for participating. Thanks for keeping the conversation going. I appreciate it. I appreciate everything you do for the channel, especially when you support the Pets and Vets program and other programs we run. So thank you for that. We'll be doing the America Guns and Freedom podcast here in just a moment. But for now, we're done with shooting the shit. So thanks, everybody, for coming. Hope to see you again tomorrow. Until then, remember, always carry and stay safe until I see you again.